The man behind the mask, Darth Vader, feared across the galaxy, is more than an icon of evil. He is a tragic figure, defined by the endless conflict between his present darkness and the relentless, haunting echo of his former self, Anakin Skywalker. The story of Vader is a slow-burning odyssey through trauma, ambition, extremity, and ultimately the search for redemption. To unravel the psychological maze behind the mask, we must begin with the boy Anakin and follow every step that led to the rise and fall, and rise again, of a broken soul. Anakin Skywalker's origins were carved in pain. Born into slavery on Tatooine, his first lessons were of powerlessness and uncertainty. His unwavering attachment to his mother, Shmi, was not just affection, but a lifeline, the only stable point in a world of deprivation. This relationship formed the bedrock of his psyche, making him acutely sensitive to attachment, loss, and injustice. Being torn from his mother to follow Jedi Master Qui-Gon Jinn marked Anakin's first great fracture. Though offered freedom and purpose, he was thrust into an order that expected him to sever emotional bonds. Repeatedly told he was too old and carried too much fear, Anakin absorbed a vision of himself as different, incomplete, and crucially, perennially on the edge of failure. The Jedi valued serenity and detachment above all. They viewed Anakin's intensity as a threat, not as a gift. Yet, Anakin's superhuman power in the Force came directly from his passion, his profound ability to feel. This wedge between teaching and temperament instilled chronic dissonance, a deep irritation that would chafe worse as he matured. Even as he excelled as a Padawan, anxiety and doubt haunted Anakin. The more he was told to suppress emotion, the more power those emotions gained in secret, feeding internal guilt, defensiveness, and later, rebellion. The Jedi Order became both a sanctuary and a prison. As a general in the Clone Wars, Anakin was exposed to a decade's worth of violence, command decisions, and losses. He became a legend, admired, respected, and increasingly isolated. The brutal realities of battle, the loss of comrades, and the constant requirement to perform as a savior intensified his inner turbulence. His bond with Padme Amidala, a love hidden with the stakes of forbidden knowledge, became his anchor and his Achilles' heel. No longer trusting the Jedi to understand him, Anakin confided only in her and his friend Obi-Wan Kenobi. But even those ties were subject to secrecy, fear, and the mounting threat of betrayal. Ahsoka Tano, his talented Padawan, provided hope and connection. Yet, her departure from the Order after being abandoned by its council marked another crack, reinforcing his conviction that the Jedi could never fully trust or accept him. With every loss, his fear of abandonment and need for control only grew. The murder of his mother was the crucible that burned away much of Anakin's innocence. Consumed by agony and guilt, his massacre of the Tusken Raiders was both a plea for catharsis and a cry for help. This act of unrestrained rage, wrought from trauma, showed the dark seed that would later blossom into the persona of Vader. Haunted by this event, Anakin became convinced that with enough power he could control or prevent loss, foreshadowing the fatal choices yet to come. Palpatine's role cannot be overstated. He became a surrogate father, a voice offering not judgment, but validation, understanding, and twisted encouragement. He fueled Anakin's growing paranoia, intensifying his mistrust of the Jedi and fanning his deepest fears, the loss of Padme, irrelevance, and insignificance. Palpatine slipped poisonous promises into Anakin's psyche, that the dark side could grant him absolute power, enough to save those he loved and rewrite fate itself. The more Anakin doubted the Jedi, the more plausible the unthinkable became. As the war drew to its bloody conclusion, Anakin's emotional state was a storm. Anxiety, hope, fear, guilt, suspicion, and longing. Padme's pregnancy, and the accompanying premonitions of her death became unbearable pressure. The Jedi's refusal to grant him full trust or authority confirmed his worst suspicions, leaving him feeling cornered by fate. Faced with the unspeakable, the possibility of losing Padme, Anakin chose salvation over principles. His ultimate betrayal was not simply of the Jedi Order, but of his own soul. The slaughter of the Jedi younglings in the temple was both an act of desperation and a final tragic crossing of the moral Rubicon. The duel with Obi-Wan on Mustafar was not just physical, but a clash between the remnants of love and the will to destroy everything for control. Maimed and left for dead in a hell of his own making, Anakin's transformation was violently consummated. Superficially, Anakin was annihilated. Darth Vader was born from ashes and agony. But the reality was far more complex. The core of Anakin, the haunted, loving, regretful spirit, remained deeply buried, ever present as a ghost behind the mask. Vader's black armor became more than a life support system. It was the externalization of emotional repression, a symbolic wall, locking Anakin's ghost inside. Every element of the suit was painful, restricting, dehumanizing, a constant reminder of loss and failure. Vader's persona fed on anger, discipline, and cruelty. But these traits disguised perpetual inner torment. The execution of subordinates, the crushing of all opposition, the merciless quest for total order. Each was an outward projection of inward chaos, a doomed strategy for managing intolerable existential pain. His violent acts served both as expressions of revenge on the galaxy and as punishments for himself. The frequency and extremity of Vader's rage were the signals of internal war. Despite every act of repression, Anakin's ghost was never exorcised. In the solitude of meditation chambers, nightmares forced Vader to relive his greatest failures, the wrenching loss of Padme, the innocent laughter of a young boy from Tatooine, and the countless faces of the fallen Jedi. On rare occasions, that hidden self surfaced, a moment of mercy, a hesitation, an undisclosed tear. Each such instance was an internal rebellion, a flickering of a humanity believed lost. Even as Vader built an empire of fear, he could never silence the whispers of regret. Luke Skywalker's revelation as Vader's son was the arrival of hope and a living reminder of Anakin's best self. Luke's compassion, naivete, and resilience reignited long-dormant emotions: paternal love, guilt, and the wish for redemption. Every encounter between father and son widened the crack in Vader's armor, making the internal struggle more acute. Vader was torn, the Dark Lord's instinct to dominate and convert, battling fiercely with Anakin's longing to protect and reconnect. Luke became the mirror before which Vader could not hide from his legacy, his choices, and the cost of denying his truest self. The true crescendo of Vader's odyssey unfolds not with a clash of sabers, but in the charged stillness of the Emperor's throne room, a place where history, destiny, and the restless ghosts of memory converge. Here stands a man at the limits of his suffering, estranged from his own heart. As lightning racks his sun, and the Emperor's cruelty reveals its final ugliness, the armored sentinel hesitates. In that silence, the construct of Vader at last splits, yielding to something older, wounded, and profoundly human. It is no longer the Sith Lord who enacts the final, desperate rebellion, but the Father, the remnant of Anakin Skywalker, battered but unextinguished. The last act becomes one of impossible mercy, a rejection not just of the Emperor and his monstrous designs, but of the years spent waging war against a wounded soul. By ending Sidious, Vader shatters the prison walls built to contain grief and guilt. The darkness falls away. The mask, so long a fortress and a tomb, fades into insignificance. At the edge of death, Anakin finds a redemption he believed forever lost, released from torment by a forgiveness carried in the eyes of a son. The resonance of this moment extends far beyond personal absolution. Vader's journey forms an archetype, a timeless meditation on the cost of refusing to confront pain and longing. This is the slow, cyclical spiral of a spirit at war with loss, the devastation wrought by repressed love and the self-obliterating pursuit of control. Here is the living shadow every being flees, and the unthinkable hope that even at the bleakest depths, return remains possible. What endures is not the image of the tyrant, but the legacy of struggle, a legacy that neither shies from darkness nor denies the possibility of light. There is no warning in this story, only an invitation to acknowledge the ways a life is shaped by memory, to witness the bonds that hurt and heal, and to trust in the possibility of change despite the cost. Redemption does not erase the past, but honors the courage it takes to seek out the uncertain dawn with trembling hands. In the silent epilogue, Vader remains transformed, no longer monster nor merely tragedy, but something more vital. The mask, however thick, can be removed. The ghost within, long silenced, is revealed not as a curse, but as the undying spark that binds all souls. In his final breath, Anakin Skywalker claims peace, not through conquest, but through surrender, to love, to pain, and to the light forever waiting beyond the mask.